Previously, we explored the world that shaped Sun Tzu, a crucible of conflict and philosophy, and the timeless wisdom he etched into the pages of The Art of War. Now, we follow the path of that wisdom across dynasties, continents, and centuries to see how the words of one ancient strategist echoed through history, changing the very nature of conflict itself. The journey begins in the land of its birth. As dynasties rose and fell across China, Sun Tzu's text became a cornerstone of military thought. During the Tang Dynasty, a golden age of culture and power, The Art of War was canonized as one of the 7 military classics, a required reading for any aspiring general. Emperors and scholars alike pored over its verses, not just for battlefield tactics, but for lessons in governance, diplomacy, and statecraft. They understood that the ultimate victory was won without shedding a single drop of blood. In the Song dynasty, amidst constant threats from northern invaders, military academies were established where Sun Tzu's principles were dissected, debated, and adapted. Generals like Yu Fei, a national hero celebrated for his loyalty and brilliance, were deeply steeped in its teachings, using deception and strategic positioning to counter numerically superior foes. The ink on those ancient bamboo slips was not drying, it was flowing, adapting, and shaping the destiny of an empire. This river of wisdom soon flowed eastward, across the sea to the islands of Japan. It arrived in an era of intense internal strife, the age of the samurai. Warlords, known as shoguns, and their loyal samurai warriors found in The Art of War a philosophy that resonated deeply with their own code of Bushido. It wasn't just about how to wield a katana, it was about the psychology of the opponent, the importance of intelligence, and the virtue of patience. Figures like Takeda Shingen, one of the most brilliant military tacticians of the Sengoku period, famously inscribed a banner with a line directly inspired by Sun Tzu: "Swift as the wind, silent as the forest, fierce as fire, immovable as a mountain." This was the art of war internalized, woven into the very fabric of samurai culture. The text was copied by hand, passed down from master to student, and studied by flickering candlelight in war camps, a secret weapon more potent than any blade. Its principles on espionage, discipline, and understanding terrain became fundamental to the Japanese way of war, a legacy that would endure for centuries. From the shores of Japan, Sun Tzu's influence began its slow but inexorable journey across the globe. For centuries, it remained a largely Eastern secret, a hidden gem of strategic thought. But as the world grew smaller through trade, exploration, and, inevitably, conquest, the West began to take notice. The first translation into a European language, French, appeared in the late 18th century, brought back by a Jesuit missionary. It is said that this very translation found its way into the hands of a young, ambitious French general, Napoleon Bonaparte. While the direct influence is debated, the parallels are striking. Napoleon's emphasis on speed, decisive action, and attacking the enemy's weak points echoes the core tenets of The Art of War. He, like Sun Tzu, understood that battles were won not by brute force alone, but in the minds of the commanders before the first shot was ever fired. The 20th century, however, marked the true global ascendance of Sun Tzu's masterpiece. In the crucible of revolution and modern warfare, his ideas found new and fervent disciples. Mao Zedong, the architect of modern China, adapted Sun Tzu's principles of guerrilla warfare to his revolutionary struggle, famously stating that the enemy advances, we retreat; the enemy camps, we harass; the enemy tires, we attack; the enemy retreats, we pursue. He turned a nation of peasants into a formidable fighting force by mastering the art of the indirect approach. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, Vietnamese General Nguyen Giap masterfully employed Sun Tzu's strategies against both the French and the Americans. He understood the psychology of a protracted war, the importance of winning the hearts and minds of the people, and how to turn an enemy's overwhelming technological superiority into a weakness. He proved that the art of war was not just for grand armies clashing on open plains, but for any conflict where a weaker force must outthink a stronger one. Even in the West, the very institutions that once faced these strategies began to adopt them. Today, the art of war is required reading at military academies like West Point and the U.S. Naval War College. Its lessons on psychological operations, intelligence gathering, and strategic deception were studied and applied in conflicts from the Gulf War to the modern fight against global terrorism. The ancient wisdom had come full circle, now shaping the doctrines of the world's most powerful militaries. Its lessons on avoiding direct conflict and achieving objectives with minimal cost more relevant than ever. Yet, for all the impact of his work, a profound mystery shrouds the man himself. Who was Sun Tzu? As we peel back the layers of history, the figure becomes more elusive, almost mythical. Was he a real general who served the king of Wu, whose legendary feats were recorded by the great historian Sima Jin? Or was he a symbolic figure, a composite of many strategists, his name a title meaning simply Master Sun? Some historians argue that the sophistication and layered wisdom of the art of war suggest it wasn't the product of a single mind, but rather a collective work, refined and added to over generations of military thinkers. The text we have today may be an amalgamation of strategic knowledge, polished and perfected over a century of constant warfare during the spring and autumn period. The lack of contemporary corroborating evidence for his existence fuels the debate. We see his influence everywhere, yet the man himself remains a shadow, a silhouette against the dawn of history. Perhaps the truth is that it no longer matters whether one man or many. The mind behind the art of war created a legacy that transcended its own identity. The wisdom became the man, and the man became the wisdom. So we are left with a paradox, a book of war whose ultimate teaching is the avoidance of it. A strategist whose identity is lost to time, yet whose voice guides generals and leaders today. In a world still shaped by conflict, from boardrooms to battlefields, the silence of a 2,500-year-old strategist speaks louder than ever. He teaches us that the greatest victory is that which requires no battle, that true strength lies not in aggression, but in understanding, preparation, and control. His work is not a manual for bloodshed, but a guide to navigating the complexities of human competition with wisdom and foresight. As we look at the conflicts of our own time, we see his principles reflected in the delicate dance of diplomacy, the subtle art of negotiation, and the strategic positioning of global powers. The war he wrote about was not just of swords and spears, but of wills, of minds, and of spirit. It is a war we all fight, in some form, every single day. The ultimate tribute to his genius is not to win wars, but to create a world where they are no longer necessary. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. If this hidden story moved you, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More forgotten heroes are waiting to be remembered.